I saw him the year before, the day before shotgun season, and then he just disappeared. He was gone the rest of the season. So I decided the next year that that was going to be the deer that I was to hunt.
When Tim Goode saw this deer, he knew it had to be his.
I was so impressed by that deer that I was focused on that deer. Had another deer come through, I would have let it pass because I wanted to get that deer. He would be my prize. He would be the one that I would get, or I wouldn't get another one.
Back in 1981, in rural Hendricks County, Indiana, Tim Goode was involved in an epic quest. Though he'd been deer hunting for several years, he had never had the opportunity to take one.
I hunted 6 years before I took my first deer. I didn't know what I was doing back then. I now know what a scrape is, what a rub is. And each time I come into the woods, it brings the memories of that first day. And the day that I had that encounter with that big buck. Those memories will never fade.
Tim Goode is a pretty lucky guy.
Yeah, there's got to be sign in here somewhere. I mean, besides the tracks are everywhere. Looks like a pretty good sized deer's coming through.
He's still out in the woods every year, pursuing his lifelong obsession with deer hunting.
We don't buy much beef at all. We eat deer. And it's a great thing about Kyle. She'll say, you know, we're getting a little low. Don't you think you need to go hunting? Oh, sweetheart, I guess. That's what I have to do.
His freezer is full, and he has a wife that appreciates and supports his passion for hunting.
You can hunt for the rest of your life. October to January is yours.
Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate that.
Tim has a replica on the wall that would be the envy of any whitetail hunter.
The mass is just unbelievable. It's about as big as a Coke bottle at the bottom. The only thing that kept it from being a state record is this main point right here is broken off. Had it been the same size as this one, then I would have beaten the state record by a couple of inches.
And Goode has one other thing that most folks can't claim. He has an original rack in the King of Bucks collection.
My deer head is in what they call the King of Bucks collection. And people get to come and they get to look at these bucks, and then they get to hear the stories behind how these bucks were taken. And just the mere fact that Bass Pro has me as a part of that, just, it's just very special to me.
Beyond all that, Tim Goode has one other treasure: the memories of his quest for this giant whitetail.
The morning that I got out there, I guess most of the deer were in bed. I didn't see anything. I don't even think I even saw a squirrel that morning. It was so cold. I just sat up there and just watched the day come and froze. It wasn't, I mean, that's all there was to it. I just didn't see anything. I walked back to the car, got in it and started it up. And I was just looking around and there he was. I grabbed the shotgun and I grabbed a shell and ran at a cat-a-corner angle from him. And I stopped in the middle of the field, and just about the time I pulled the trigger, he must have seen me and he jumped. And I think he jumped into the bullet, to tell you the truth. But he kind of got up his front quarter and started pawing toward and trying to get away. And then it was like the rifleman. I'd put a round in and I'd pull the trigger, and I'd pull a round in and I'd pull the trigger. I shot at that deer 8 more times and missed him 8 more times. And I had 1 slug left. He was about 10 feet away, and he stopped and just stood up. And I shot him behind the shoulder and he dropped. And so I take the shotgun and I'm looking at his eyes, and it's all glazed over, so I know I'm good there, and I poke him with the shotgun. I reached for my knife to go field dress him, and I realized I'd left my knife at the house. Well, now I'm worried because here this deer is, and I don't want him to get away, and I don't have a knife to gut him like you're supposed to. So I run back to the car, jump in it, get it started, and take off again. I go to the first farmhouse that I see. I run up to the steps, I pound on the front door, and this lady comes to the door. I said, Miss Gregory, I need a knife. And she kind of looked at me a little bit, and I said, I just killed this really big deer, and I need a knife. I forgot my knife at the house, and I'm talking about a mile a minute. She said, well, honey, all I have is a Perry knife. That's good enough. And I ran out there, and I pulled out that Perry knife, and I started to work on him a little bit, and then I'd count points. As soon as I saw it, I knew it was big. I didn't know how big, and I didn't know it was a record book buck, but I'd never seen a buck that big before.
Here's how big. The deer field dressed at 240 pounds. And it needed that bulk to carry this rack. It has 31 points. G2s and 3s reach for 11 inches. Combine that with 59 and 7/8 inches of abnormal points, and you get a net final Boone and Crockett non-typical score of 251 and 4/5. Not bad for your first deer. The rack was #1 in Indiana at the time it was taken. Today, 33 years later, it still ranks as #2 in the state. This great trophy is now available for public display as part of the King of Bucks collection.
It's really neat to have that as part of his legacy because he loves to hunt so much and it's so much a part of him.
Yes, Tim Goode is truly a lucky guy. Not only was the first deer he took the buck of a lifetime, but he's also gained the wisdom and perspective that allows him to continue to enjoy that achievement and deer hunting in general, now some 33 years later.
I'll probably never ever see another deer in the woods that big. But that's not why I hunt. I love the sport.